Hi, I'm Pamela, and this is the very first episode of the FiberSpritePodcast, where we will talk about all things fiber arts, but specifically focusing on knitting, spinning, weaving, and dyeing. So today we'll start off with knitting, and the first thing I have to show you, this is something that I've been working on. This is a little sock, and I only have the one sock, which tells me that I have more than enough socks in my sock drawer right now. I'm not really hurting for any socks, but I'm also just not really motivated to be knitting something quite this fine right now. I also have the sock blocker, which is one that I made, and it is available in my shop. So it's on Etsy and on my website. They come in a pair, and they're super fun. They've got little sheep cut out of them, so that is fun. I have started the Camaro pattern, which is by Tanis Fiber Arts, and I just really love the shape of this pullover. The V shape is made by decreasing, or increases actually, and it creates that nice V shape, and I'm going to do this as a stash buster with a slightly lighter weight yarn than is called for in the pattern. So I'm going down a needle size, and I'm also going up a sweater size than I would normally make to sort of accommodate for that difference in the yarn and the needle sizes. And this is Jamieson's of Shetland, and I just love the color, and I've pulled a bunch of different colors for this, but I got this far the other night and then realized I had twisted when I joined in the round. So it's going to have to start again, and I think I'm actually going to pick a different yarn for the very first color. It's still going to be the same color, but it's hand spun that I did, and it's just a tiny bit softer. So I'm thinking, what's exactly right next to my neck? I want that to be a little bit softer. So that's Camaro, and I am excited to be starting this. I have these little tools that we made. These are also available in our shop, and I'm going to be using one of these for when I am working on the Camaro sweater. So you can put your yarn through there and tie a knot, and then you can track your colors, and it kind of gives you an idea of which colors you're working with and how you want to proceed. So it's a design tool and an organization tool, and I use it for color work, but you could also use it for embroidery, and these are available in the shop. I have this yarn, which is Cumbria. It is from the Fiber Company, and somebody brought me this sample just the other day, and I am going to be knitting the one sweater from the Fiber Company. It's a new pattern that they've released, and it comes in sizes from a 1-year-old up to a 56-inch chest. And one of the things that's really interesting to me about this yarn that it's knit with is it's a worsted weight yarn. It's pretty basic. It's a blend of Masham wool from England and mohair from Argentina. And I didn't think I was going to like this yarn. I thought it was going to be really scratchy. I tend to think of Masham as rug wool, and I've spun with it before, and maybe it was a lower grade than the Masham that's used in this. But it's soft, and I suspect that most of the softness comes from the mohair, and I didn't expect to like that part either because people have strong opinions about mohair. It tends to be a little flyaway. And I can definitely see it sort of poking up a little bit. I think that would end up in this yarn ending up as a nice halo rather than being something that would pill too much. But I'm going to be teaching this as a class, maybe not this year, maybe at the beginning of next year, just as a basic sweater knitting class. And I'm not going to be using this color. I'm going to be picking my own color for my sample. But that's coming soon. I have to order the yarn for the color that I choose. So let's move on to spinning. So last night I went home, and there was this really big box in the living room. And inside of that box was a matchless. So I have a Shacked Sidekick, which I love. It's a little bit smaller. And I also am the caretaker for my guild's Shacked Matchless, which is this wheel. One that our guild has is a single treadle, and this is a double treadle. I bought this earlier in the summer, and it wasn't ready to ship until just last week. So I got it yesterday, I put it together, and I had purchased this fiber. This is Berry's Jubilee, which is dyed by Sweet Georgia Yarns, and this is the Shacked 50th anniversary celebration fiber. So I thought, what better thing to spin than Berry's Jubilee, a celebration of their 50th anniversary when I'm celebrating getting my new wheel. So I'm super excited for this new wheel, and I know that we're going to be best friends. And this is a really nice fiber to spin. It is 15% silk and 85% polwarth, which is a type of wool, and I'm just spinning it just as it comes. No special color manipulation there. And I have been doing a lot of spinning this summer, and part of that is because I've been dyeing a lot of fiber, and I want to have samples of as many of the fibers as I can so that people can see how those colors spin up and some of the things that they could do with them. So this colorway is called Golden Hour. I love this color. Maybe I'm a little biased. It's got a little bit of this pale orange. What I was going for was that sort of that really light golden pink color of clouds when the sun is either around sunset or sunrise. And so that's in that color there. And this was fun to spin. This one I spun just sort of however I felt like. It came out as a light worsted weight yarn, and I warped it up on my loom, and I made this. I had intended for this to be like a bed throw or even a shawl or a wrap, but it ended up being just a little bit too short. I folded too much when I was washing it. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it. What it's got is, so you can kind of see the color progression of the stripes, and I did not work really hard to make sure my colors matched up as I was plying. So you get some stripes, some variation. There's just a lot of different things happening there. And then because I didn't control my spinning too terribly much, there was a lot of extra yarn left on one bobbin. And when that happens to me, I like to ply it as something different so that I have a contrast yarn. And this one I did as a boucle. So it's spun as a boucle, and then you can see there's these diagonal lines of texture that go through at intervals on the scarf, shawl, fabric, whatever it is. And it just creates a different texture, and it's even more subtle on the opposite side. And so I'm thinking maybe I'll make this into a tote bag or something like that. The next spinning thing is this, which is Colorado Canyons. And this is what it looks like in the braid. So this is turquoises that are blended with some reds, and then we go into oranges and yellows. And this one was really nice to spin. And this is a merino fiber, but all of my colorways come in merino, BFL, and Falkland. So if you don't see it on the website and you want one of those different bases, just contact me and I'll dye some of those up. And the other thing is that all of my fiber that I sell, my braids are 6 ounces instead of 4 ounces, so that you have some room to sample. You have the opportunity for more yardage. A lot of times I look at projects and I think, well, I like that, but I need more fiber. And so this is spun up to about, I don't know, a light fingering, a heavy lace weight, and I have just under 500 yards of this. And I had a little bit left over that didn't match up in the plying. I did try to match these colors up in the plying, so this is a nice self-striping colorway. That's Colorado Canyons. This is Marine Bloom, which is a blue turquoise green colorway, and I need to ply these together. And this was done quite fine. I think it's about 56 wraps per inch in the singles, and so I don't know what the yardage will be yet, but we'll find out. And this is the colorway. This is Marine Bloom. This one has actually been really popular this summer. I've had a lot of requests for this one, so it's fun. It was inspired by the colors of a lake where the water's really, really clear, and right up close to the shore you get sort of a pale green, and then out where the water is deeper it gets into that deep, beautiful turquoise clear waters. That's what this was inspired by. And then the last hand spun is this one. I did a couple of different bats of this that were all related to each other. And one of the things that I was working on with this was testing our spinner's multi-tool. So we've got two right now. There's a sheep and then there's a classic shape. And up at the top you have a protractor so you can check your twist angle. And then you've got your wraps per inch guide along the bottom. And then we have 5 different holes on the standard one. And the sheep has 3 different holes. And what's this? The holes are for is you can use them as a diz to pull your roving or your hand combed top. And I had thought that the smallest hole was going to be too small, but that actually makes a really lovely pin drafted roving, and that's the size that I used for this. And I do tend to spin quite fine a lot of the time, so that actually worked out, and I was able to fit a fine crochet hook through there to kind of get the fiber started. So that worked out really well. So on to weaving. I had an idea earlier this year, probably in February, for a really textured warp. I like to do a lot of mixed warps where the textures or the colors create this striping effect throughout the fabric, but it also lets me use multiple kinds of yarn, so I don't have to buy tons of yarn, and then if I get it on the loom and I decide, oh, I don't really like that, if I've used different yarns, I can use my stash better, and I'm trying not to, overspend. So this is the warp that I came up with, and it is a mix of sizes and textures. There's some bouclés in there, there's some alpaca silk, and when that folds, it creates some different textures. There's a little bit of hand spun in there that it had been sitting around on the bobbin, not having been plied, and I finally plied it together for this project. And I just love this fabric. It's got a lot of drape, it's really soft, it's just really yummy. But one of the problems with this was I wove this on my Saori loom, which is this one right here, and it has this really cool warping system where you can warp off the loom, basically, and I used that, but the warp is at the bottom there, and so the warp roll can only get so big before it starts touching the floor. And because a lot of these yarns were really thick, I wasn't able to get as much warp on the loom as I thought I could, and I had to cut it in 2, and I had a lot of loom waste, and it felt really wasteful. So what I did was I made another warp with a finer yarn, and I tied the loom waste together to form longer pieces of yarn, and then I wove that as weft, and this is just a scrap piece from the garment that I made that we'll talk about in a minute. But it creates this really interesting texture. It's a different thing. It's random, but it's cohesive, and again, it's a very similar fabric. It's very soft, it's very drapey. It's just really I'm really pleased with this one. I think I'm actually more in love with this fabric than my original idea, which was based on something that I had seen in a store. So what I did with those two fabrics was I made this jacket, and this is still in progress. It needs some trims. The sleeves are definitely way too long, so those are going to be cut down. And what I think I'm going to do is make another piece of weaving. This is something I like to do a lot for my trims. This is going to be the warp, and it's going to be almost like a ribbon or a twill tape. It's probably going to be 1 inch to 2 inches wide. And this will be the warp, and I'll use some of the leftover yarns that I had from this project and just create something really unique, but something that still is cohesive with the garment. So that's something that I'm working on. Now, when I was done with the waist yarn, when I had used all of that up, I still had a lot of warp left to go. And so I wove this with some of the yarn that was, the other yarn that was left over, the background yarns that I used. And this is just, it is so soft. The warp is merino and from Skicel, and the weft is a merino cashmere blend. And it's just a really nice, light drapey fabric. I could tell it's going to be nice and warm but not hot as a fabric, and I had originally thought that it would be lining for the jacket, but I think the jacket's going to be plenty warm enough, so I'm probably going to do this. This might be backing for pillows. It could be a different garment, but I'm not really sure what it's going to be. So there's just under 3 yards of this. It's like 2 3/4 yards. So, and it's not terribly wide fabric because I am limited by the width of the loom. I have a bigger loom, but it's got something on it that's been on it for months. And it's that's almost done. I just have to cut it off the loom and finish it. After I finished the gray fabric, there was still warp left over, so I wove this. And this weft is hand spun. It is similar to this yarn, but it's actually a little bit thicker. It's closer to a worsted weight. And what happened when I washed it is because the warp was set so close together and the weft was kind of thicker, they sort of pushed and pulled at each other, and it got this interesting texture. It's hard to explain, but it sort of waves in and out. Weavers call it tracking, and sometimes it comes out looking like twill, but here it came out looking like something else, and I'm not quite sure what, but I really like it. And this will probably be a pillowcase, but it could also be another one of those tote bags. Let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments what you think this should be. And after I finished this, I still had at least another yard of warp that could be woven. And this is something I like to do. I like to make long warps because I like to play. So once the fabric that I meant to make is all done, then I get to play and think about different ideas for things that I might want to do in the future or things that I want to do right now. So I did this. This is just sort of a little doodle and kind of got a landscape vibe. Got these rays of sunshine, and then it's got this fun raya fringe at the bottom. And this was, a lot of these are little scrap pieces of yarn, leftovers from other projects, and this was just a really fun thing to do. It is really soft and drapey, and I mean for it to be a wall hanging, but it's probably not strong enough. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to quilt it down to a stronger piece of fabric and add some layering in there before it becomes a wall hanging. And that's it for that warp. This is alpaca yarn. This is hand spun, and this is an experiment. Can you weave with singles? Can you weave with hand spun singles? Can I weave with my hand spun singles? And the answer is yes, absolutely, not a problem. So I wove this on the Saori loom, which is a counterbalance loom, and that tends to put less strain on fibers. So I don't know how it would do on a jack loom. My other floor loom is a jack loom, and it can put a little bit more strain on the yarns. I did have a couple of warp ends break in this, but it was fairly easy to repair. And I have two lengths. This one's a little bit shorter, and then this one is fully a scarf length. And again, I had intended for this to be a throw of some kind, but it's really scratchy. And this was really more of a sampler of, can I do it? How would it work out? And I do intend to use this fabric, but I haven't figured out what yet. Maybe it'll be another bag. This still needs to be wet finished. This is still in its raw state as it comes from the loom. What's on the loom right now is, this is their cotton dish towels. This is 3-2 cotton. This is American made, M-A-I-D, and it is color grown cotton. So these are the natural colors of the cotton as it grows on the plant, or most commercial cotton plants are just your basic white, and they've been bred to be white. But there is natural color variation in cotton. And so some farmers have decided to do this, and this is the American Made brand. And it's not organic, but they have specific sustainable growing practices that they follow. And what I'm doing with this is, it's a color and weave sampler, and I'm trying out different patterns with the different colors. And this is potentially going to be a sample for one of the classes that I'm going to teach later in the year or early next year. And then the last weaving thing I've got are these little Zoom Loom squares. So I've got two so far. The Zoom Loom is from Shacked. It's just a little pin loom. And it's nice because it has, there's a little slot. There's a little slot so you can put your yarn tail in there and it doesn't get lost. And then it's got spots where it reminds you how to warp the loom, which is really nice. And what I'm going to make are these little pumpkins. Aren't they cute? And this is a sample for a class that I'm teaching. And the kit, it's a kit. It comes from Deb Essen, and she has all sorts of different kits for the Zoom Loom, which is really fun. And it comes with all the yarns that you need. It comes with the instructions. You have to buy the Zoom Loom separately, and you have to provide your own stuffing. But it's a really nice little kit, and it's really well done. So the very last thing I have to show you, it's a basket. So I took a basket weaving class at Intermountain Weavers Conference a couple weeks ago, and this is one of the baskets that I made. So this is not going to be a very strong basket because it's beginner work, but I learned a lot and it was really fun. I wanted to learn basket weaving because as I have been researching things about the fiber arts, I realized that basket weaving is really the first form of weaving. And so naturally, if it's related to fiber arts, I want to try it. And I've been wanting to try basket weaving for quite a while. And so the other issue, or the other thing that led me to want to try basket weaving, is I have been watching people online who are doing it, and it looks really interesting. And I'm also looking around my yard and I'm like, what if I put that in a basket? What if I made that into a basket? So I'm getting ready to harvest the iris leaves from my yard. I've been watching Sarah Sweat with her iris cordage that she weaves into tapestry, and I think that that would be really interesting either to weave with as art pieces or to weave into a basket. So I don't think that I'm going to be weaving lots and lots of baskets. I don't think it's going to be quite like knitting, spinning, and weaving cloth for me, But I do think that it's a fun thing, it's related, and it helps me understand fiber arts even better. So I'm excited about that. So thank you for sticking around and watching this first episode. I'd love to hear what you think. You can find me on Instagram as the FiberSprite and also on Facebook as the FiberSprite and the FiberSprite on Ravelry. My website is FiberSprite.com, and I'd love to hear from you.